I gave it some thought and put together what David and I are calling kind of 5 keys. First thing that I think is very, very important is you've got to be on board with the concept, and your team has to be on board with the concept of it. When David first suggested this, I'll be very honest, I was kind of like, I'm not really sure how that's going to work, because we are very event driven at our store. Dave will tell you, we do a lot of details. We're good at events. It's one of our strengths. And I was having a hard time figuring out how am I going to transfer all that into the virtual world. So I had to think about it. I brought it up to the sales team because they're the drivers of this. They're the ones making the appointment. So when I first brought it up to the sales team, you know, they listened, but they were not sure about this. So we talked about it. And then we had David at a Zoom meeting like this, so they could see what the gems look like on the turntable. They could see what it was going to look like, because their concerns were, you know, how are the gems going to look? How are we going to sell this way? What's the format going to be? So after we had the Zoom meeting with David and we said goodbye to David, right then and there we talked about it again. And my 2 heavy hitters, my 2 drivers of sales, I mean, we have a sales team of 6, but 2 of them really drive a lot of it. It's interesting, they were the 2 that were most uncertain about it at the beginning, and they actually ended up to be the 2, once again, that drove the appointments. But we had these several conversations and everybody agreed. I said, hey, I'm not forcing this on you. Everybody agreed and said, okay, we see it. We need to try this. We think this is the way of the future. But I think that multiple conversations and having them see what the gemstones look like on the turntable and all that sort of thing was very important, because you want them to go and make these appointments and promote it. And we all know that if the team, if they're not on board with it, you know, they just don't do as good of a job promoting it. The team has to have buy-in on the concept. You've got to have buy-in, and the team's got to have buy-in. And we all know that nobody likes to be forced to do something. And I think it helped to hear their concerns, hear them, address them. And some things I just said, I don't know. I said, but I think we should try it because of these reasons. And look, I think you can see the videos and most of these customers will know us, etc. So that's the first thing. Before you even do anything, if the team, you've got to get the team to have buy-in on the concept.
And I know with you, Holly, is that you took strong leadership.
Well, you got to step up there. And I was honest. I said, you know, I'd like to try this because I think moving forward, the whole Zoom thing or virtual meeting, virtual event is going to continue to exist, because I don't know about you guys, but when I get home from work, I'm tired. I'd like to put on my yoga pants and a t-shirt, and if I could get a glass of wine and Zoom in to my favorite clothing salesperson, I'd be buying. I'd be saying, yeah, send me that shirt. I don't want to go out. I just want to be comfortable at home. So I think there are many people that are like that. So I think this is going to have other applications, not to get off track. But I was honest with them, said I'm not really sure. But others have had success with this because I talked to David, and I think we should try this. I think we should explore this. Second key is don't just go into it quite totally random and say, hey, we're going to try it. I mean, I'm always very targeted. You know, if you don't have something you're shooting for, then, you know, what you end up with is uncertain. So we went ahead and said, we're going to shoot for 25 appointments, figuring that a few won't show up. And if we could end up with 20 on the call, we thought that would be good. So you yourself, how many of us are on, I mean, there's screens, what, 5, 10, 50, there's 23 screens open now. So if you get a lot more than this, it's kind of a lot of people, I think, in a virtual environment. So we said, everybody shoot for 5 appointments, each salesperson knowing that our heavy hitters are going to make 6 and some of our others are going to make 3. But we said our goal was to have 25 appointments and 20 people show up on the call. So we had a target. And so we actually ended up with 20, 22 appointments, and we had 18 clients on the call, plus one lady that we were literally taking pictures and texting her. So she was like not on the call, but part of it. Actually, we had two people doing that.
Yeah, they were. I remember that you were doing that, and we sold quite a few to them. Now, you had an extraordinarily high show up ratio. What did you do to get that high turnout?
Well, we typically, even with our in-store events, we have a much higher than average turnout, people that actually show up for it. And it's a credit, I think, to the sales team and the training. We really work with them on talking up the event to everybody that they come in contact with. And don't just push somebody so hard that they give you their name to get rid of you, but they have no intention on really showing up for the event. Right. We've all experienced that. I tell my people, don't do that just so you can write a name up there. If you sense that the client is not interested, move on, but you don't know who's interested and who's not. So you start talking to somebody, and the next thing you know, they go, oh, you know what? Well, my daughter's graduating from college and her birthstone is sapphire. I was thinking of getting her a sapphire. So I think it is the training, and they're used to events. They're in the groove of talking it up, paying attention to the customer. Are they really interested? But they also have to do a good job on the talking points, not just we're having a gym show, you want to come, that you got to have the talking points at the event. So making the appointments is only the first step. Then we had them contact them. At least we had, for every client, we had at least 3 contacts. The initial appointment, we sent them a follow-up email targeted only to them that had the meeting number and a reminder, and it's going to be great, blah, blah, blah. We had a phone call or a text, but in most cases a phone call from the salesperson following up again saying, okay, Betty, do you know how to use Zoom? In fact, that was in the first conversation. And don't accept the answer of, well, yeah, I'm familiar with that. We really made our salespeople go, okay, well, do you have it on your computer? Do you have it on your phone? Have you attended a Zoom meeting before? And really probe them. And we had 2 clients come in the store with their laptop, and we set up a fake Zoom meeting and had them practice in the store. Because I didn't want to lose anybody due to technicalities, technical difficulties. Because you yourself know, if you're not really sure about something, and then you think you know how to do Zoom, you've heard it, or people at work are doing it, you haven't done it. I didn't want anybody to get home that night, go to do it, and go, oh, I'm confused. I'm not going to do this. The other thing that I'll just kind of mesh in here is we made sure that every client had their salesperson's cell phone number, so that if you have trouble, we told every salesperson, tell Betty, let's log on. If you're logging on, you're having trouble, just text me. And you want them to have your number also for when you're on the call. Some are at the gym party. Some people are not comfortable saying, oh, I'm interested in that peridot, but they'll text their salesperson and say, hey, can you ask David about that peridot again? And then my salesperson would say, hey, David, can you go back to that peridot and tell us about that again? So back to the appointment thing though. So we made the appointment, and from the get-go, we talked about the technology. We had a follow-up email. We had a follow-up, typically it was a phone call. And then the last thing we did was the day before, we had Edible Arrangements deliver a 12-pack of mini cookies with a cute little sign on it. I don't know, David can share the screen, but it kind of looked like this. They got the cookies, and we wanted it the day before because it was cute, and the card has the meeting ID number on it, and it's a visible reminder sitting on your kitchen table or wherever saying, don't forget about the Zoom call. And plus, I just know human psychology, you might be less likely to blow it off if I sent you some cookies. You might, you might feel, well, God, they sent me cookies. I don't want to disappoint Annabelle or Carrie. Those are my salespeople, or Andrew. So the day before, and the reason we did it the day before is if we had any delivery troubles, which we did, we have 3. we still had the day of, because ours was at 7 p.m. on a Thursday night. So the couple of delivery problems we had, for various reasons, the cookies were then delivered the day of. So we had at least 4 touches to the customer before the event. And that's not counting the people that came in and we gave them a little practice run on the laptop, but it was at least 4.
Nice.
And every time we're excited, you know, we can't wait, this is going to be so cool, blah, blah, blah. So just to kind of back up, number 1, you want to get your team on board with the concept, because without that, you're swimming upstream, is my opinion. Number 2, set a goal for at least the number of appointments, and know that not everybody's going to attend, and whatever your store ratio is, maybe you want to try to have 30. If you feel you need to have 30 appointments in order to have 20 show up, you know, so be it. And keep confirming those appointments. The other thing is, when you're making an appointment, now we've learned this over the years working with David, if you ask the customer what gemstone are you interested in, some can answer that. Others don't know. But if you say, what's your favorite color? Everybody knows I love blues and greens. Okay, so the team did try to probe, and we did send ahead of time several requests for David. We've got somebody looking for this.
So one of the things I've been impressed over the years with you is that your team is so on point. I get these emails, I'm looking for this, I'm looking for that, I'm looking for something else. So when the meeting comes up, I'm able to say, Mary, I know you said that you were looking for peridot, and I've got 3 lovely peridots, and so you interact with them, and they feel special. You thought about them. And
yes, well, we're going to even talk about the interaction even more here in a minute. But just the fact that you do that makes Mary feel special. Also, you know, she's like, oh, you know, she's a VIP. Exactly. So anyway, those are the first, and the third thing is make sure all clients are comfortable with Zoom. Okay, whatever you got to do. You know, Annabelle was calling this one lady who's an elderly lady, and she had her I mean, it was hysterical. I thought Annabelle was going to lose her mind. She had so much patience, but she kept saying to her customer, we're going to do it again. Okay, let's do it again. So everybody was well prepped. So anyway, make sure your clients are comfortable with Zoom. Now, number 4, make sure that your team is comfortable with Zoom. And here are some tips to pay attention to. First of all, if you look at the gallery view, I don't know if you're on gallery view or not. If you look at us right now on gallery view, you want to be sure everybody's well lit. Started at 7 and we went till 9:45. And so a couple of my people started when it was daylight, but as it got darker, it was like they were descending into like a cave. And so we didn't do a good job with that, but next time we're going to have that fixed. On Zoom, there is a tutorial about holding Zoom meetings, and they talk about where your camera should be elevated. And plus, ladies, we don't want nobody looking at us from this angle, right? So you want that camera, you know, listen, we know what's important, right? Tell them light, I mean, it's light right now, but I still have a lamp in front of me and I have an overhead light. So you really want to be lit up. The other thing is pay attention to the background. Now, our clients like the fact that we were at home. It's kind of like I get to see Holly at home. Oh, that's her home. You know, I'm sure they're looking, going, "What's her house look like?" You know.
What's that? And is that a real plant, or is that a fake one? You know.
We're up there. See, there's my family room, and my kitchen. But I think that customers like that they get a glimpse. You know, everybody's at home. Carrie's at home. So, but make sure you don't have your laundry like piled up behind you or whatever you got going on, because remember, everyone can see you. Now, on that point, we had a little problem on my Zoom party that it goes on. Okay, we thought it would be an hour, and then it was, you know, 2 hours and literally 45 minutes. So you forget, you get feeling comfortable, and you forget that if somebody switched to gallery view, you can see everybody. So I did have 2 of my people who had gone at this, one went over to the other's house. Like Daisy, you got 2 people in your 2 of you sitting there. But I had 2 of my people were like, oh my God, their customers logged up. They were like, oh my God. And then they picked up a coffee table book and started looking at it.
Oh,
So
no.
then while I'm smiling and going, Bob, that's a beautiful gemstone, I am texting them saying, put that book down. And of course it was so funny because they're lounging. And then one of them goes, hey, there's the phone. And you see them look at the phone and they go, So tell your team, tell your team, you know, everyone can see you. Don't do nothing you don't want to be seen. Very important. And on that same note, not everybody has a pleasant, resting facial expression. And remember, this is a party, okay? This is a party. And so I was exhausted because for 2 hours and 45 minutes, I'm going, yes, yeah, oh.
Oh, you kept saying, wow. Oh, wow.
That's it. Okay. You have got to be engaged. It's like you ask people over to your house for a party. You aren't going to sit on the couch and ignore them, right? So there were some of my people, I just wanted to reach through and go, you know, they were like,
Oh no.
yeah, not quite that bad, but because they forgot that
Oh
they
no,
could be seen.
Holly, I've seen that because of all the 30-some gem events I've done. I've seen the very stuff you're talking about. It's hilarious.
So they forget. So you've got to have a big discussion about this, and because that's not going to happen again because we had lots of discussion afterwards about that. So anyway, remember your lighting. Remember that you are on camera for the entire time. Tell your team, go to the bathroom before, because I had one lady said her bladder was going to explode because it was 2 hours and 45 minutes and she didn't pee beforehand. Go pee. And if you have to leave in the middle of it, because you're going to have multiple staff people, I'm thinking on there, you know, just get up, go and come back, or turn your little video off and come back, you know, no big deal. The other thing is watch your moving around, because my same 2 ladies that were lounging on the couch and looking at the coffee table book, they were getting situated for the first half hour. So they kept moving and, you know, they get, you know, and they're talking to each other, and it's very distracting because the little square is like making you motion sick. And we want to be looking at David's gems and thinking how wonderful they are, and we want to buy them. So just make sure that you talk about these things with your team ahead of time and not just go, everybody knows how to use Zoom. And because it will make the experience better for the customer. The other thing real quick is make sure everybody knows how to use chat. And again, how to mute themselves. Make sure your team does, because if you have a team member that's at home and has kids or a dog, they need to know how to mute themselves. Now, David will periodically mute the group, and then people have to unmute themselves, but just be sure your team is familiar with all of that. And you want your team to log on, I suggest 20 minutes early, so you can make sure that everybody looks okay. There's nothing inappropriate in the background. You know, lighting is okay before you start letting clients into the party.
Absolutely.
So any questions about that? And I would have a little drink nearby. It can be festive or just a little water or something. Yeah. But, you know, be prepared.
So go ahead.
Can I ask, what was your prep time on this?
The prep time was a store meeting, about a 45-minute session with David with the sales team. And then individually, it was really more what you would do for any event, talking to customers individually. We had a sign-up sheet on our bulletin board, and it's just following up with the customers. My marketing coordinator handled the e-blast and the getting the cookies, you know, from edible arrangements and the addresses and such.
Well, you were about a 2 to 3 week countdown timeline, weren't you?
By the time we committed, yes, that's about right. And normally we like a little more. We start about 6 weeks for most events, but
Yeah,
because
sure.
this is fewer people, we started about 3 weeks.
Yeah, a
weeks?
virtual event,
That's good.
well, there's a countdown timeline with our in-store events of 6 weeks. In fact, you might start 8 weeks before. However, with a virtual event, because you're not sending out all of the
Right.
hand, the mailings, and you can do it in 2 to 3 weeks.
Yeah, you really can. Because again, we were targeting 25 for us, 25 appointments and 20 on the call is what we were hoping. Now, talking about appointments, just real quick, since I mentioned that, because you only have 20 people, remember that you want to be sure that you have buyers and not just party lookers, because so we did talk about that as a sales team, because if you oversell the party aspect and hey, it'll be fun, just come watch, you don't want to have 10 out of the 20 people there who literally are just there to watch and have no intention of buying.
One of the things that's true about that is then you end up with low energy, because this is show business. And Holly, the thing I noticed about you from the beginning till the end, you're the owner of the company, but you are fully engaged, like, wow, how much is that gem? Where does that one come from? And you lifted the energy, and your team lifted the energy. And then the clients, they're interacting, they're lifting the energy. You've got to have extra high energy in an event like this.
You do, and that actually segues great into key number 5. So number 1, get everybody on board with the concept. Number 2, get a firm goal for how many appointments to set and how many people you hope to have on the call. Number 3, make sure that all your clients are queued up with Zoom. Do whatever you got to do to make sure they're ready for that. Number 4, make sure your team is skilled with Zoom and everybody understands the expectation. And remember, the camera's on, we can see you. And number 5, everyone needs to know their role at the gym party. This is very important. And you need to give this mindset to your team. Most of my team was pretty good with that, but we learned, this is the first time we did it, and we had a couple that weren't. And so what I mean by that, you say, what's everybody's role? What are we doing? It is somewhat structured. So in other words, people are coming on. When people are logging in, you see how David was saying, hi, Sean. Hi, Joe. Welcome. Okay, so as your clients are coming into the Zoom party room, you do want to be going, hey, Debbie. You immediately, you want to be welcoming them in as they're coming in. There's a little bit of chit chat. And then the owner or whoever you think is the best person on your team, you're going to welcome everybody, and I'm going to say, hey, everybody, welcome. We're so excited about the gym party. I know most of you. I'm Holly Wesche. I'm the owner of Wesche Jewelers. And then I roll in. So I'm kind of doing this welcome. But there's a couple of things that you want to accomplish during the welcome. Number 1, how excited you are about this gym party. Because, again, you're starting it off. If I'm like, hey, David's here. He's got some gemstones. Yeah, it'll be good. I mean, you got to start it off. You got to set the expectation. The other thing is you need to cover. I recommend a couple of brief administrative things to remind your client. It's fine. Go ahead and mute yourself if you've got some background noise. Tell your client that this is interactive. Feel free to ask questions about a gemstone and acknowledge that we know you all have the cell number of your favorite sales associate, so feel free to even text them if you have a question that you'd like them to bring up, or feel free to use the chat. Now, speaking of roles, my strong recommendation is have a support person on your team manning the chat. It was terribly difficult. Talk to the customer. It was very difficult. So have some support person answering the chat, because some clients will be adept at this. They've done Zoom and they're, and others are not, but you want to answer them. So have somebody. My marketing person was behind the scenes, and she was watching it and she was answering the chat. So when I talk again about the role, who's manning the chat, who's doing the welcome, back to the welcome. If you are going to have a client or clients that you're communicating with by phone, like we had two that were not on the call. One person, there's a couple people that are not comfortable with Zoom. You know, they feel like they're going to hack into their computer. So literally my salespeople were holding their phone up, taking a picture, but it's good to tell people that's what you're doing, because otherwise, if we're on the party, it looks like I'm not paying attention to the party, right? It looks like I'm texting a friend, okay? So if you tell people ahead of time, hey, if you see some of us texting, we've got a couple clients that couldn't join us at the party, but we're gonna be taking pictures and sending them. And we did, we had one gal by about 11,000, we were texting her pictures. But tell your other clients that, otherwise I think it looks bad. And then last but not, tell them what to do. Like, so if you want a gem, David was good about this, because a lot of these tips came from after doing it, saying in hindsight, oh, we should have done this. But David was good and he covered for me because I didn't do this. But to say, hey, if you see a gemstone that you like, just yell it out, or you can write it in the chat, or you can text your favorite sales associate. Don't be shy, or if you have a question, this is very interactive. So tell them ahead of time, because you don't want them sitting there going, I'm kind of interested in that sapphire, but I don't know what I should do, right? So if you kind of tell them those administrative things, then build David up. Welcome. We're so excited to have David, the gem hunter. Go over your administrative things, and then slide back to David and how fantastic he is. And he goes directly to the mind and all the things we know to say, and then sling it over to David. So do your welcome. Someone manning the chat. We had two other support people that were taking notes behind the scene about what customer was buying what. And it was good we did, David, because we had several of them call us the very next morning.
Yes.
Because they're buying multiple gems. And two of my salespeople, they were I should have given them off the next day. Carrie and Annabelle were exhausted because they had 3 hours of texting, talking over Zoom, selling 3 customers at one time, trying to take the notes. So next time we're going to sign a support person for each of them, just to keep track of that. In other words, Sarah's buying the sapphire for $4,500. Sarah also bought the pair of spectrotite garnets, and Sarah also bought a little blue topaz for $220. So line this up ahead of time, because again, we had customers calling the next day. One guy, this guy Tom, he always pays us in cash, but he has to move money. He wanted to know his total right the next day. He wanted to know. And so think about who's doing what at the actual party before you're in the midst of it. The other thing is, as the owner, whoever's kind of facilitating, when we got to started at 7, when we got to 9:15, I started trying to wrap it up, because I thought, and a couple clients dropped off. They had to go do other things, and they would write in the chat or say, hey, I have to go. And we say, fine. Yeah. So when it was 9:15, I said, hey, I see that it's 9:15. I want to be respectful of your time. And I was trying to wrap it up, but we had 2 of our customers still buying. Watching for that, when you think, it's a good time to wrap it up. Oh, another very important thing real quick about the party, probably the most important thing, David already mentioned, is engagement.
Yes.
So we already talked about it with our team. And I said, if there's a lull, somebody better speak up. And they were really good about it. So there was not a lull for very long, because I said something or Annabelle said something, and they tried to engage their client. So you want to say things like, hey, Debbie, what did you think about those? Even if Debbie's not buying them, you don't want to put anybody on the spot. But there's nothing wrong with saying, hey, Debbie, what'd you think about those spectrotite garnets or whatever? So you want your sales team to be interacting with the clients and get them to speak. And I will tell you honestly, a little trick. We got at one point, we had some buying going on, and then it got a little no buying for a bit. And then I did a little fake. We're just fessing up here. I had my phone up, took a picture, was texting, and I said, David, can you go back to those Spessor tight garnets? I've got Sherry who's interested.
Yeah.
Because the momentum had slowed. And so he went back to them, and I look like I'm texting Sherry, and I said, oh great, Sherry's gonna take them. Now there was no Sherry.
Good job, Holly.
And what I was thinking, I was like, I kind of like those Spessor tights. I have a big, beautiful Spessor tight myself, and they weren't that expensive. It was like a $2,000 retail. I'm thinking, well, I just bought myself $1,000. You know, I knew David would take it back, but right after I did that, it starts hopping again. So I'm not suggesting dishonesty. I am just saying
Momentum.
Momentum, engagement, enthusiasm.
so just a little trick there. And actually we're going to sell, I really like those Spessor tie. I was going to keep them, but I think Carrie's going to sell them to Cindy Kane, David, by the way. So anyway,
We'll get you a different pair. You know,
so anyway, the engagement, tell your people ahead of time that, and you want everybody to make a comment. You don't want it to be you and 2 salespeople. You want all the salespeople, even if they didn't have but 1 client on the call, you want them to go, wow, that's a fabulous emerald or whatever.
Exactly.
You've got to have the engagement. And that's why your facial expression and all is so important with everybody on the call. Yeah. Okay, so that is the most once after getting physical people to attend, your energy and engagement is going to make it or break it, in my opinion.
You know, it's kind of like Gem TV, except they're not bringing the gems into your store to have you set them. You are Gem TV. You get to be Gem TV. You get to make the money instead of the TV guys, and you're building the credibility.
Yes.
Does anybody have a quick question? I want to play a clip from our event. I put just a.
Oh, I think Debbie's got to. Please don't play the clip of my people looking at the coffee table book and the. That could be a bloopers.
Okay, we'll do. Okay.
I do have a question.
Okay, go ahead.
Holly, David, did you guys find it all in the Gem Show event that there was someone that was monopolizing your time, or did that not exist?
There are definitely people that are more talkative than others, and there were several that hardly talked, and we kind of had to say, hey, Cindy, what do you think about that? And you kind of have to respect that. Like Cindy actually did buy, and she's probably going to buy my Spessor tights, but she's a more quiet person, but she said she really enjoyed it. So we didn't have one person that monopolized. We did have maybe 5 people that were more talkative than others. And I think whoever's the facilitator, the owner, just to try to watch for that.
Yeah. And you've got to call out the people who are quiet and invite them. And that's exactly what you did. You called out the quiet people. And often you call the quiet people out and they light up like a candle.
Right. So you don't know. So go ahead and try it. Reach out to them. And once they talk once or twice, then they're a lot more comfortable. It's like that Jessica girl was really quiet at the beginning, David. And then she ends up she kept us late. But she was buying, so I was like, I'll just get my little blanket and we'll just stay here as long as you want. But I'll look engaged. I'll look, so 3 hours later and I'm hungry, but anyway.
Let me play this clip here real quick of the actual show. I just put this together this morning, so.
Some of you probably are already familiar with David, but if you're not, he is one of the world's leading experts on colored gemstones. He travels the world and buys them at the source. We thought this would be a great opportunity. You can all relax at home. Hopefully everybody got their cookies. There's a little
Thank you.
Love cookies.
And so, cookies are always good.
And we're based here in San Diego. It's a beautiful sunny day. And we have also a family cutting business, like Holly said, a family cutting place in Thailand where Nong's brother, his wife, and her older brother, they take every piece of gem rough that I buy and they turn it into a work of art. And so you're going to have a treat tonight. I go to remote places like Sri Lanka. Right behind me, that picture right there is in a remote area of Burma near the ruby mine. And so I go to places like that in Cambodia and Africa and wherever gems can be found. And so tonight we're going to look at gems. I'm going to take you on a trip to Sri Lanka, and we are going to go on a gem hunt as well. That is a massive size for a Sri Lankan gem. I bought that in the south central mountains of Sri Lanka.
That's beautiful.
And that's one of the rarest colors you'll ever find.
I think we might need to pull that pear off the table. Isn't that right?
Yeah, it looks like Sarah wants the pear.
Yes, I do.
Yeah, those are beautiful.
I'm getting hypnotized watching these things go around.
Okay, that is a 2.29 carat white sapphire.
Oh, that is nice. I like
That's
that.
a carat and a half. Now here's a nice price point. This gem is a carat and a half. Normally it'd be about 3,500, and today is only 2,835. Rural Sri Lanka at a very interesting mine is called Tiriwanakatir. And there's a gem pit behind me, and also there's a river down there where they're digging in the river and they're washing the gems and they're looking in the water for the gems, kind of like how they. I've got a 4.91 carats.
Oh, look at that.
Oh,
Oh,
Wow.
oh, that's pretty too.
Anymore. I was really lucky to get that parcel.
That's beautiful.
Well, actually, the show price is 2,156.
2156. Okay, I'm gonna text somebody on that. Oh, I like those.
Oh,
Yeah.
I like the great garnet.
Yeah.
Oh, Mandy. Two of those.
So Nani's interested in the one from Madagascar.
Drum.
Oh, David, go ahead and send us the spezertite. My lady's gonna take them.
That's gorgeous.
That really is.
Like seafoam
That's
green.
a seafoam blue-green. That,
Oh, it's beautiful.
that one is
I love that.
I bought the rough one that was really low price. That one's only 2,400. That
Oh my gosh.
that gem should be, gosh, probably 4,000 now.
Oh my goodness.
And there's the match.
Carrie, can you pull that aside for me?
This one?
The green one?
Yeah, the terminal, that one right there.
Thank you all. So have a great evening, and I know I cannot wait to get this box because we can look through it and see these in person. And so we'll
You're
be,
not gonna get loud.
guys, have a great night. And David and Non, thank you again.
So that's kind of a taste of how our gem event went. Unfortunately, the resolution in the recording is not as good as the actual event itself, but you get the idea.
Right. You can see us go, that's beautiful. That, you know, you want to keep that engagement going, but you can hear a lot of our customers, you know, chiming in, and so that was good. And if you do have a customer, we all know we have some customers that are a little more social and talkative. I would try to have one of them, even if they're buying modestly, get one of those people, you know, in on the gem party. Just their contribution can be the energy.
Yes.
That can be helpful too. But again, we all want to sell.
Yes. So does anybody?
I mean, the bottom line is we want to sell and, you know, make some revenue.
Right. So who else has some questions? I know there are quite a few people with us today, and we want to hear your feedback and any questions or comments that you might have.
And want to point out that, like with Holly, all your team have video, right? Most of them have video that their client can see the salesperson, because
Right.
You don't want to just have name without video, because people interact with
Yes.
personally.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
So,
Mhm.
who else who has a question or a comment?
Ellie. Well, back to that question for a minute. Did everybody have their video showing Holly that night?
All of anybody interacting, our whole sales team did, but our manager, our marketing coordinator, and our merchandise coordinator were behind the scenes, because I'd rather have the squares be bigger you know, I didn't want them taking up a square because they were really working, and some of the customers might not have known who they are. And I don't want it to look like I have a staff member who's not really paying attention or doing something else. So anybody participating, the sales team, myself, and all the clients we had maybe, David, like 4 clients who didn't turn their video on.
Yeah, a few people were embarrassed and they just wanted to be anonymous, and you can't force that.
Yeah, which is okay. But of the staff, anybody who was engaging, we had them with video and audio. But if they're manning the chat, no, have them unseen, just in the background.
Got it. Thank you.
Who else has a question?
Holly, did you find it easier for your staff to call maybe some of their top customers, or just customers coming in off the street and talking to them about it? What was easier to get people to join?
Well, it's always easier if you already have the relationship with the customer. The first, 10 appointments were made real quick, from that pool of people. But then we made 2 appointments just from people talking in the store. But everybody that attended, I'm thinking about the list, everybody that attended had some relationship with us.
We got a question from Eric, and Eric, I'm going to try to answer that right now. I have 2 turntables here. One you've been looking at with some gems on it, and I have a second one for more gems, so we don't have to segue into messing with it too much. And then I have these 2 lights. I didn't even turn the lights on. So I've got a couple of these lights that I can change the temperature of the lighting. And then I have my overhead lights.
I have a question. What time of day did you do it?
Ours was at 7 o'clock in the evening, 7 p.m. Because I wanted people to be able to get home from work, have a little bite to eat. And, our little card, we look forward to seeing you on Zoom for our virtual gym party, Thursday, June 25th, 7 p.m. As a reminder, the meeting number is blah, blah, blah. We just did it ourselves using, this is actually David's graphic materials. And we just put it together and literally printed them out on cardstock, gave them to the edible arrangements dealer, and she put them on all the boxes and delivered them.
So you can, we've got a graphics package that you can use. There are several different formats that you can use. It's important to be able to have one for your Facebook, for your website, for your Instagram, for your e-blast, but we have a consistent graphics package. I have phone scripts that you can use, a countdown timeline that you can use, which based on Holly's information, I'm going to modify because this is tremendous information that she's sharing with us. This is stuff you have to pay for.
Yeah,
and it's free.
At least $10,000 if you join Tony Robbins to get this trick.
Wow,
More than that.
and I'm so impressed with when Holly said, "Okay, let's try it." She didn't mean like, okay, by chance, but she do it by plan. She planned all this stuff every step of the way, and her intention is to succeed, not just, okay, whatever, let's just do it. Maybe we'll get lucky.
Well, that's the thing. I believe in the leadership, as David said. You as the owner set the tone. And I mean, once we decided kind of as a group, and literally I had each one of them vote, and they were like, some were like, yeah, Holly, we see what you're saying. I mean, I didn't want to sales talk them into it, but I said, here's why I think we should try this, and we'll learn from it. Because a lot of the tips that you're hearing from me now, we did a lot of this, but some of this we didn't do that we now know for next time, to make sure we're all well lit and we're not doing sewing while we're on the gem party or whatever.
So I've got a scheduling app. So that if you want to do a gem party, I can send you the scheduling app. You can schedule the date. You can also schedule your training session. I will do a 1-hour training session or a 30-minute training session with your staff ahead of time and get them ready, mentally ready, emotionally ready. And there were 2 people like Carrie and Annabelle were the most skeptical. What turned the corner for them that lit them on fire?
Well, for Annabelle, it was when she saw the gems on your turntable, David, when we had that meeting with you and my sales team. When she saw the gems, see, she was thinking in her mind, you know how you come to our store and they're all in the little trays? Yeah. She told me she was thinking in her mind that that's how it would be on the gem party. And so when we showed her that, no, the gems will be out, they'll be lit, they'll be on the turntable, right? See, you really can see them quite well.
Yes.
And so had we not had that meeting, I mean, she was kind of totally against it. But when she saw, oh, they're not in the little boxes, they're out, they're together. That was the turning point for her. And the other thing that I'll tell you very honestly, what surprised me is the next 2 days. So we had it Thursday night and then Friday and Saturday. The next 2 days, we had about half a dozen of those customers stop in, and they were raving about what a great time they had. And I was like, well, yeah, it was fun. But I mean, they really were raving about it. Tom, this guy that spent 20 ahead of time and spent 20 on the event, he brought us this big thing of cookies as a thank you.
More cookies.
And I'm like, Tom, dude, I should be buying you like cookies, big cookies. So they really enjoyed it. They really enjoyed it. So we had really good feedback. I mean, not only did we have the sales, but I think the clients enjoyed it. And I think even those that weren't as vocal, they felt kind of like it's a little exclusive, you know, a little VIP thing. And that was good.
Who else?
How far in advance did you send out the invitations?
We didn't have any invitation at all. We just...
Oh, the calls. The calls, that's what I meant. The calls.
We started...
You started calling 2 to 3 weeks beforehand.
It was 2 to 3 weeks, not much more. Not much more, yeah, because I was a little bit hemming and hawing. David and I talked about it, and I told David I got to talk to the team, and I like the idea. And then it took a few more days to meet with them. So they started reaching out probably about 2.5 weeks ahead of time. And most of the appointments were made in the first week of reaching out. And then we just were filling in that second week. The appointments come from the enthusiasm and the belief that the salesperson projects to the client. I don't care if it's the virtual gym party or your state jewelry show. That's really where the buck stops. It's your sales associate, how they talk about it and how they talk about color and why is color important. And that just takes a little time and training. I'm not saying it's might be a good tool, but really where the buck stops is your salesperson and their belief in it, and they're able to transfer the excitement and to articulate the benefits, to paint the picture of how is this a gym party. And so we always talk about it in terms of the party and special savings on the gemstone, kind of this exclusive time with David Artenian and why that is special and why we love David and we know David. And, you know, you want to work in the fun, the exclusivity, and the opportunity.
Absolutely. That's great.
And that's kind of the recipe that you want every salesperson to be pitching. And if they know their client well, like Annabelle knows her client super well, some it's the exclusivity is the hook. To others, it's, you know, opportunity of a special pricing during the gym party. But those are the ingredients that really go into it. And then you want to execute it well, because we have a good reputation for events. And I want word to spread that like these virtual events that we're going to be doing are exclusive, because you really can't have much more than 25 people. It's too many.
It is.
So we're going to try to build on that exclusivity vein.
I've done some very successful events with just 5 or 6 people.
Oh, yeah. If you've got some heavy hitters.
Yeah, it's intimate. And the other thing is, what we do is I tell the clients there's 3 ways you can buy. Number 1, you can grab the gem right off the turntable and we'll put your name on it just like you saw in the video. The other 2 ways of buying are these ways. The second way would be You could stay in the room at the end. Not, in fact, everybody stayed in the room. That's why we went on for 2 hours and 45 minutes.
I know.
But anyway, you can tell them you can stay in the room at the end, and we've had great success with that. The third way is segue them into a private one-on-one meeting at a later date. Just say, you may not have seen the gem you wanted, but we will set up a private meeting so you can look with an exclusive time. So that's the third way. And this has actually revolutionized. Our memos have almost gone to zero, and now we're showing the gems to the client, and they're picking it instead of like a memo thing. They're picking the gem right then, and I send them to the store, and we're getting a 90% close rate. A couple of weeks ago, a client walked into the store. This was in New York, and I got a call from the store, and they said, I have a client here. She wants to buy a sapphire. I said, well, let's get on a Zoom right now. And she said, really? I said, yeah, let's do it. And so they got on the Zoom, and I started showing sapphires on the turntable. But she said, my daughter is here. I said, well, just send her off to the corner to look at something else. And so the salesperson and myself and the client were there. And then when she saw how much they were, like 12,000, 18,000, 15,000, she said, oh, I got to get my daughter involved. And so she said, I want to get you a gem. So the daughter came, we had a party, they consumed a bottle of champagne, and I sent a couple of gems, and they spent 16 grand.
Nice.
Now, can you imagine how that would have been as a memo? What a freaking train wreck. It would have been like, send the stone. Maybe they show up, maybe they don't show up, maybe they moved on to somewhere else. But we captured the whole thing and their imagination and the emotion. And that is the other way to make this thing, like take this technology and make it work.
Holly, another question for you. How did you handle then the appointments for the custom designing of the gems?
Well, everybody's different. This guy, Tom, you hear us talking about, he is a gem collector. We had given, I'm trying to think if he went to one of your in-store events, David. I can't remember.
I've never met him before.
No, I don't think so. We must have just given him, we have these gemstone collector cases that we got from Rio, I think, maybe. And he's filling it up. He's actually just collecting the gems. We have one lady who lives out of state, Sarah, who was on the call, and Carrie's already custom designing. She's not even going to see the gemstones until they're set in custom designs. So Carrie is already doing sketches and just sending her emails and pictures on her phone. Some people don't know what they're going to do with them yet. So it just varies with the customer.
Okay, thank you. This is really helpful. I loved it.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes. Well, I think we probably need to wind down. I think a lot of folks need to get back to work. But Holly, I just thank you enough for taking the time.
Yes.
Oh, happy to do it.
Yes, for sharing with everybody. I mean, everyone gonna be so successful now because of you.
Yeah.
Well, listen, hindsight's always 20/20, right? I mean, like I said, we even learned things to do better the next time.
Yes.
But once you experience it, it's easier to talk about it and really point out these subtle nuances. So remember, if you're on Zoom, we can see you.
Okay, everybody. Oh, by the way, if you right now in the chat, there's the chat box there. If you want to book a gem party, just type in the chat there. I'm in. Reach out to me, and I'll reach out to you with the scheduling app. Or you can call the office, and you can go to our website, artiniangems.com, and you can just put in that request there. But the best thing to do is just let me know right now, or you can email me. I've been sending you multiple emails. You're probably sick of my emails by now, but I do that so you don't forget about me. We're here to help you succeed. That's the passion behind my business, is to help stores segue into the new way that can make you more money and just blow the doors off your sale.